Of educators from across KOTA Territory gathered for this year's Behavior Refresh Conference. The conference opened yesterday at the Performing Arts Center with a keynote by Dr. Ruby K. Payne, a nationally recognized expert on poverty and education. It continued today at the Box with dynamic breakout sessions on topics such as student behavior, educator wellness, and innovative strategies when it comes to teaching.
The research is changing almost monthly, let alone yearly. We're giving our teachers the most recent research, the most effective tools and strategies to connect and build with our students. If a teacher knows the why behind the strategies, they're 32% more likely to be not only to use them, but to be successful.
Attendees also had access to a library of resources, including articles, videos, lesson plans, and toolkits.